All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Welcome, everyone. So, when you picture a hippo, you probably think of what you've seen in cartoons, a lazy, adorable, yawning giant just lounging in a river. But I'm here to tell you that this common perception couldn't be further from the truth. Today, we're unpacking an explainer on 10 mind-blowing facts about hippopotamuses from Taman Safari, Bali. And I promise you, by the end of this, you are going to see these animals in a completely new and, frankly, much more terrifying light. Let's get started. Right off the bat, I want to ask you a quick question. Think about these massive, semi-aquatic animals for a second. They spend practically their entire lives in rivers, lakes, and mangrove swamps. They even have webbed feet, and they could hold their breath underwater for an absolutely astonishing 5 minutes at a time. So, based on all that, do you think they're actually good swimmers? I mean, given their lifestyle, it seems like a total no-brainer, right?
Well, here is an absolute reality check. Hippos cannot swim. At all. Zero. They literally cannot even float, which is completely wild when you consider how much they love being in the water. Instead of swimming, their bone density is actually so high that they just sink right to the bottom like a stone. To get around, they just walk or kind of playfully bounce right along the river floor. It's this incredible adaptation where they completely skip the mechanics of swimming just to stroll comfortably underwater.
Okay, moving right along to Section 1, Introduction to Giant Mammals. To put their massive scale into perspective, weighing in at a staggering 3,200 kilograms, the hippo is the third largest living land mammal on Earth today, sitting just behind elephants and white rhinos. Actually, the largest hippo ever recorded weighed a jaw-dropping 4.5 tons. Just try to imagine that kind of monumental weight effortlessly bouncing along the bottom of a muddy riverbed.
And their family tree reveals one of the most common misconceptions about these giants. If you look at a hippo, you'd probably guess they look a bit like giant pigs, or maybe you'd assume they're related to other hoofed mammals. But evolutionarily speaking, their closest living relatives are actually cetaceans. That means they share a common ancestor with whales and dolphins. So they aren't giant river pigs, they are literally biological cousins to the masters of the ocean.
So their lifestyle actually perfectly matches their scientific name. The word hippopotamus comes from ancient Greek, and it translates beautifully to river horse. It's incredibly fitting, because they predominantly hang out in rivers, like the famous River Nile, and spend the vast majority of their days fully submerged in the water, just to stay cool under that blazing African sun. But wait, if they spend all this time in the water, and we already know they can't float, how do they sleep? Well, they rely on this brilliant, completely subconscious biological process. First, they fall asleep entirely submerged in the water. Then, without even waking up, their bodies automatically push themselves up to the surface to take a necessary breath of air. Finally, they just sink right back down into the water, remaining fast asleep the entire time. It is a completely automatic reflex. They literally sleep underwater without drowning, which is just an absolute marvel of biology.
That brings us to Section 2, Anatomy and Physical Quirks.
So despite looking pretty intimidating, hippos are strictly herbivores. The vast majority of their diet is just grass, with a tiny minority made up of fallen fruits. At night, they emerge from the water and can spend up to 6 solid hours grazing on land. They consume about 1 to 1.5% of their body weight every day. That means a single adult hippo is packing away up to 35 kilograms of grass in just one night. Now contrast that peaceful grass-eating lifestyle with this terrifying measurement: 40 centimeters. You would be completely forgiven for mistakenly thinking they're carnivores just by looking at their jaw-dropping dental anatomy. A hippo's incisors can reach 40 centimeters long, and their canines can reach up to 50 centimeters. Those teeth weigh about 3 kilograms each, and here is the craziest part of all. They never stop growing throughout the hippo's entire life. And it gets wilder. When a hippo opens its massive jaws, it can reach an angle of 150 degrees. That is up to 1.2 meters wide. You might see photos of a hippo doing this and think, oh look, a cute lazy yawn. Absolutely not. Be warned, this yawn is actually a severe warning sign. When they feel threatened, they open those jaws wide to flash those razor-sharp, ever-growing teeth to back off any potential threats. But it's not just their teeth that are entirely unique, it's also their skin. You might have heard the famous myth that hippos sweat blood. Well, it's not blood at all. They actually secrete a custom-made fluid containing 2 highly specialized pigments. The red pigment acts as a really powerful antibiotic, protecting them from bacterial infections in the wild. And the orange pigment? That acts as a natural sunblock. absorbing harmful UV rays. So while the river water keeps them cool, these two pigments act as this incredible, built-in shield against both the elements and disease.
Which leads us directly into Section 3, the vicious side of hippos.
Beneath that sort of dopey, docile exterior lies a very deadly nature. Despite weighing upwards of 3,200 kilograms, do you have any idea how fast they can move on land? Over 40 kilometers per hour. Just let that sink in for a second. A creature the size of a small car can sprint at 40 kilometers an hour. If you find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time, say standing right between a hippo and its water source, there is absolutely no way you are outrunning.
And their aggression extensively shapes how they mark their territory. Have you ever heard of a poop explosion? Well, hippos have this highly unique and kind of gross territorial behavior. They will literally defecate while rapidly spinning their tail like a high-speed fan, flinging their waste up to a 10-meter radius. This excessive display lets every single other hippo in the area know exactly who owns that stretch of the river.
Now, while this might sound slightly comical, the environmental impact is actually quite serious. Because they defecate so heavily in the water to mark territory, this massive buildup leaves behind dangerous chemicals like methane and ammonia. It actually strips the local water of oxygen, which can be completely fatal to local fish and other aquatic wildlife sharing their ecosystem.
So when you combine their immense scale, their blinding speed, and their highly aggressive territorial nature, you arrive at this pretty chilling quote: the deadliest land mammal in Africa. It sounds impossible for an animal that just munches on grass all night, but they are hyper-aggressive, especially when defending their young. And remember, those huge teeth? Their bite is estimated to be about 3 times stronger than a lion's. With that massive wide mouth and raw power, a hippo can easily kill both predators and humans alike.
Tragically, this fierce aggression translates to a very grim statistic. Hippos are responsible for killing at least 500 people every single year in Africa. The vast majority of these fatal encounters happen simply because people accidentally enter or cross into a hippo's claimed territory. They have zero tolerance for trespassers, period, and they react with lethal force.
Okay, before you swear off ever going near a river again, let's relieve the tension just a bit. Fortunately, you can safely observe these incredible, misunderstood giants at Taman Safari, Bali. They offer a specialized, highly secure tram system where you can comfortably get up close to these magnificent creatures without ever encroaching on their territory or triggering any of those defensive instincts we just talked about.
And what's really fantastic is that by visiting, you're not just getting a thrill, you are actively contributing to something much bigger. Taman Safari Bali is deeply dedicated to vital animal well-being and conservation programs. You don't just see hippos. Your visit directly supports the conservation of highly endangered species, like the Bali starling, the Sumatran tiger, the Sumatran elephant, lions, and rhinos. Your presence there has real, tangible meaning for the preservation of these rare animals.
So we've gone from a river-dwelling giant that literally can't even swim to a biological marvel that creates its own sunblock, all the way to the most formidable and deadly land mammal in Africa. It completely changes how you view them, doesn't it? The only question left is, knowing everything you now know about their surprising speed, their bone-crushing bite, and their fiercely guarded territory, do you dare to see these deadly giants up close for yourself?